Sorry, it's giving me issues. What the heck?
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
You are, in fact, watching The Dorkening.
You're watching The Dorkening. Stay tuned.
For all the geek news everywhere. Dorkening.
And this is The Dorkening. Trust me, I'm smarter than these guys.
Because The Dorkening is the best and most educational entertainment and information source that the Trauma team knows of. It's the best. The Dorkening.
Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. You're watching Splash Pages. My name is Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have an awesome show scheduled for you. Before we get into that, I want to thank everybody who helped last week while I had a family emergency. You know, I thank you guys so much. And we have a special, actually a couple special guests tonight. Parasite Steve, how's it going, bud?
Pretty good, guys. How's it going? I brought the horns. I brought these, and they're loaded. So watch out. Watch out.
Oh, love it. Jar Jar.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Splash Pages, the podcast that's all about comic books, superheroes, and everything in between. I'm the one and only Jar Jar Jeremy, aka the king of comic book steals and deals, when I'm not busy running the ultimate Facebook buy, sell, trade, and auction house for comic book lovers. You can find me diving headfirst into the latest issues and fan theories, so buckle up and get ready for a wild ride. We're about to make a splash in the comic book world. Yes, I read all of that.
Nice.
That was horrible.
That was a lot.
That was great.
That was too much, right?
It was a
much.
lot. It was some amount.
Too much. I got to cut it down to about 13 seconds.
There we go.
That's what she
Velvet.
likes.
Good evening, gentlemen. It's your man, Velvet J, here on a Tuesday on the award-winning Splash Pages, the Throwback King, back again. And tonight, not only are we going to talk about the usual comic books, comic book news, MCU, DCU, but we have a fantastic guest tonight. We are thrilled to have. He's a special guest. He's highly accomplished comic writer, penciler, artist, inker. With a career spanning over several decades, he has worked on a wide range of projects, including some of the most iconic franchises in pop culture, such as Dungeons & Dragons, Magic the Gathering, and various video games. He has brought to life many beloved characters and storylines through his unique artistic style and attention to detail. His passion for art and comics is evident in his work, and he's become a respected and influential figure in the industry. We're excited to have him on the show tonight to discuss his creative process, his experiences working in the industry, his incredible projects, insights into the world of comics. So without further ado, let's welcome Mark A. Nelson to Splash Pages.
Yeah. Wow. What can I say with an introduction like that? But thank you. You know, I mean, I was looking around the studio to say, who are they talking about? You know, I mean, my dad here? You know, what's going on? What's going on? Evening, gentlemen. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for coming on, sir. You have a beautiful studio, sir. Like,
well, thank you.
Insanely beautiful, and it looks rather clean.
Well, my wife is the Rambo of clean, so she comes out here and gets upset because she says it's too chaotic. But you can see all the books behind me, and I keep telling her once I learn how to read, it's going to be great out here. That's
33
my old
bookcases,
joke,
right?
Yeah,
you got 33 bookcases, right?
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's
my wife would kill me with all those books.
But think of all the long boxes of comics you probably have.
Okay, you win on that one. You just won.
There's a few hanging on the walls there behind you.
Yeah, he just puts them on the ceiling. I mean, it's not a problem for Jar Jar.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. You know, man killed by Hulk #1 slicing throat. Slides off.
That's the way I always wanted to go.
Yeah. If at least it would have been blocked, he would have just been hurt. You know. But
oh man, I always thought it would be
cut right through the flesh. You know.
Always thought it would be Avengers Annual #10.
Yeah. So where'd you hear about the? Where'd you hear? You obviously listened to another podcast. When
I've listened to a lot of them over the past probably like 4 days. Wow. I made sure to like each of them to let them know that like I was listening, but I cannot remember the name of this one. Off the top of my head, cannot remember the name of it.
There's my calendar, and I've been running around so much from South Carolina to Chicago to the Bookpalooza. You can see, you know, I've got there was the one. What do we do? Bill Connolly comics, Graham Nolan Storytellers, Zope podcast, Specific Time, Warren Rockets, and now you guys. I'm like, wow.
Well, and
you've only got 10 days
how's
Thunder Hunters
going, Mark?
Thunder Hunters is going good. You know, like most projects, you want to be able to buy, property in the Caribbean and settle down. But it's I have to admit, in all honesty, I think it's the best work I've done. It's something that I've been working on slowly myself, and I've always did it in between all the other jobs that I was working on. So it's something I didn't have a deadline on. It's something I could work on all the stuff that I love, so it contains it actually keeps scrolling down. Those are all the little drawings that they sold. But if you get down a little further, go a little faster. There we go. There's Thunder Hunters there. There's another one of those Zopes. There's some of the artwork right there. So that shows you some of the artwork.
Such great detail.
Wow.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, that's what always gets me about your stuff, Mark, is that your detail. It's like I picture you just getting lost and looking up and like 10 hours have gone by or something.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're right.
There's
Because
times
I come out and I just say to my wife, "Well, I'm going to be out just for a little bit. I'm going to ink a little bit and do that," and she'll come out 3 hours later and go, "Well, aren't we going yet?" It's
but
Go
between
ahead,
the textures and also the patterns that you work in, it's like none of that stuff is quite necessary, but it's your style. You just bring it to so many levels beyond what would be just necessary to make a really impressive piece. It's just you just keep going. I love it. I love it. I'm excited about this.
Oh, before we go too far, want to let everybody know what the book is exactly is. We know it's an anthology of stories, but I'm not sure everybody out there in the interwebs has the lowdown. Although you've hit almost triple your goal, you're doing fantastic. So that's amazing.
Well,
that's got to feel really good.
Thank you. The guys at Zoop are real happy, so that's what's important too. Or Zoop, I can never. It's Zoop. Excuse me.
Yeah, it's Zoop. I watched that interview as well.
Yeah, where I had to ask. I asked Jordan, "What is it?" That
was funny.
Think of it this way. These are the chronicles of J.V. Holbrook, and if you think about our American culture in the 1880s, an English painter named oh God, his name just fell out of my head. Came to America and went out into the undiscovered Midwest and the East and all around in different areas and made portraits of the American Indians. George Catlin, excuse me, and James Audubon was doing the same thing with animals. So I sort of said, here's an artist that when you look at even something like Australia, the landmass around the edge is where everybody lives, and then they slowly move in, and that's exactly what we did in the USA too. So there's this huge area called Vermilion Sands, which is unexplored, and he kind of goes out and he makes drawings of the locals, the animals, the royalty, different peoples and cultures that he's met, and he comes back, and the Goodwin Williamson Museum, they're sitting there, and this guy comes up with this giant portfolio smelling of, trail dust and kind of stinky and unbathed, but he has this big portfolio full of drawings. So they have some of the portraits and that, but then he also does little short stories, excuse me, of their myths and of sometimes their lives or something that happened in their lives, the characters and the things they believe in. So this first one is 104 pages, and there's 7 little short stories in it, and they range from black and white to color, because as an artist, I said, if I'm going to do a book, I want to do something I want to do, because sometimes I work with tone paper and just work that way, the old chiaroscuro way. Sometimes you're doing a lot of cross-hatching, which I think works better in black and white than always to color everything. And then there's the color stuff. So yeah, it's a mix of a lot of that, sort of all coming together into this big nugget that is, and believe it or not, I have enough for a second volume almost.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
because I work on it myself, and I've been working on this, for about, 2 to 3 weeks. So,
I was going to say, you've been talking about it in at least the podcast since around 2018, I believe. And
that long. Okay. Wow. Yeah. You caught me.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I do my research on you. I got to ask, your wife made some kind of pencil drawing thing for you and said you're into number 2 pencils or something like that.
Oh, God.
Is there a story behind that? What is that?
Yes, there is. There used to be a brand called Eagle Murata number 2. Now, number 2 pencil is about very similar to a 2B, if you know your hardness of pencils, H being harder, B being softer. I use a 2H pencil now almost exclusively when I'm drawing the comic book stuff on Bristol. But back then I was working on a very smooth paper, and I really like the Eagle Murata number 2. So when she first met me, she always tells the story that I gave her this big long lecture about the joys of working with that pencil and how it's the greatest thing since sliced bread and blah 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 blah. And
That's why she fell in love.
To me, I just forget it. And then, 30 years later, she's got to bring it up. And she did a whole series of paintings about pencils, and they're really funny. They're
really cool looking. Your wife's a great artist as well. Like, you guys, how did you guys meet? Like, that must have been two boats and like bam, crashed right into each other, because it's amazing how your styles are very similar.
Well, we actually met in art school, and she saw my art before she met me, because I was in a show called The May Show, and I had a couple big drawings up. And I saw her work in the lithography lab because she was working on some stones, and I was talking to my friend. I said, "Who's this?" So we knew each other's art before we met. And then when she met, she drop kicked me in the groin, and that's been love ever since.
Fantastic.
That's how you do it.
No,
that is a love story.
We met in the Cleveland Art Institute, and she was an art school, high school art teacher, coming back to finish her degree, and I was finishing up my degree in printmaking. So she'll tell you this. There's a lot of stories that she likes to tell that I sort of avoid because, actually,
we'll have to have her on.
Yeah, she'll lay me to waste. Don't worry, if you want to. Yeah.
All right.
In fact, I can call her right now and have her come out, and she'll probably go, "Great, I can tell the litho story."
We don't want to make you uncomfortable.
No, I'm really not. We kid each other immensely about all that stuff. But part of what I would say when you ask me about my detail is I have a degree in the fine arts in printmaking and drawing, and growing up with people like Rembrandt and Albert Dürer, and Albert Dürer kind of rendered, the hairs on the fly's toenails, and so, yeah, I do have that kind of quality that I enjoy the detail and doing some of that. But I will have to admit, in one of the testimonies, someone said that as much as I put a lot of stuff in my work, none of it becomes, what was the word he used? It was such a great word. So obviously it was such a great word that I had to forget it.
You have a lot of great
it's not cumbersome detail that's just meaningless. Everything that's there has a meaning.
It's so deliberate. Like, so what I see is, you mentioned different styles earlier, and you mentioned cross hatching. I don't see a lot of cross hatching in your stuff at all. And for those listening, that's, when the lines cross, you have these little X's, and some go one way, and then the others go another way, and then you end up with different levels of darkness and stuff like that. It looks like there's some of that, very little, but you're really like you mentioned printmaking, and I think that is fascinating. I took a printmaking course in college a million years ago, and I loved it. It was really analog too, with we're scratching up plates of metal. And Dürer, you mentioned Albrecht Dürer. I mean, these are very print like. The lines do not intersect. So if you go really, really zoom way into any of your things, you'll see that a lot of the lines are just sort of not crossing each other at all. You're just apparently you hate fields of blank color. You have so much of your drawing is just it's taken up with these perfect, and every line is deliberate. Like I'm looking at this gentleman who's a very handsome squid gentleman with a beaky face and sort of a, I don't know, like you have the steampunk Victorian look to some of your stuff. Your imagination for these characters is unbelievable. So I know you primarily from I just brought my favorite.
Yes. Okay.
So Aliens, you were the original artist of the original Aliens comic, and I think a lot of people will agree it's one of the greatest, non-aliens things, period. It's just, I mean, a lot of people had problems with Alien 3, the movie, but this was the sequel. This was the alternative sequel that they didn't make. and a lot of
we did it before 3 came out, and then
right.
when 3 came out, it was pretty much, well, there's a flaming arrow in the hydrogen balloon going across the Atlantic,
Right. And since we're here real quick, the I'll just fanboy for one more second. One of your designs, and it reminds me of the stuff you're doing now, because this is a book full of people and xenomorphs, right? I mean, and then you really got to create what the space jockey.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this was back before we knew that they looked like big giant Vin Diesels. and here
that's an interesting take on them.
Here we a lot of people people thought that that there was a trunk there. You have actually, I think on the next page you actually drew the space jockey as it was seen in the movie. Yeah. And these panels really got me, because the space jockey scene has just always been my favorite part of that entire movie. I'm always fascinated by the little details that make you wonder what else is there to that story. And that is really one of the biggest moments of cinema for me that left me wondering. Like, I was just dying to know as a kid and as a teenager and all the stuff. So when I first read that, I was like, oh my God, look at this. They're alien elephant guys. And I always sort of preferred that. But anyway, your creatures here, it sort of seems like you are able to take that same sort of sensibility and it just blossoms. You see pieces of animals, you see pieces of a squid, or clearly you like reptiles and dinosaurs quite a bit. And then you just work in. Oh yeah, there you go, Leo.
Please don't put.
That's in color. No, go back. Go.
The black and white is the black and white is better.
Ooh, hiss.
That's like, what is this pastel nonsense? What is that? I don't like this at all. No, but you create these creatures that, I cannot compare to anything. I'm a creature guy. I'm a monster guy. It's always my favorite part of Star Wars, anything like that, any sort of, sci-fi. I gravitate, people say, like, what's your favorite Star Wars character? I'm like, I don't know, the Tauntaun. Like, I don't know. Like, I like the Tauntaun the best. So these characters are they just speak to me. And it's been really fun to see you just posting all these random things on Facebook. And I didn't know you were building something, but so it's very exciting. And I would urge people who are fans of just high imagination, honestly. Like, if you want to devour, something that you haven't seen before, like, literally you can zoom into any of these pages on that Zoop, campaign, if you're thinking about it. And you just I can spend half an hour just looking at this squid guy. And then there's that little, he's got a little buddy beside him that we barely see, a little fish. I don't know, he's got like a shrimp, like, on his head. Like, I don't know if he's controlling the creature underneath. And that's that same sense of wonder. So it's like every single one of these, I feel like you could write an entire novel about any of these characters, but they're just left up to the imagination. So to see, when I saw that you had launched this Kickstarter, I don't know how much, here's a good question for you, because I'm just rambling at this point like an idiot.
There's that little, right up there now. You can see, if you go just a little bit more down, you'll see that big grasshopper face of this guy eating spaghetti. While, he's doing well.
I like how you say it's spaghetti, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I was thinking of lo mein noodles or something like that. One of the few things we could take into outer space or worlds that's going to do it. Well, see, now here, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Can I do a shameless plug?
Absolutely.
Of course.
Okay, got to get this.
Oh, you brought it up before I could.
Okay, this is a book I did at Dover. And, it's me talking about how I create my worlds and what I did, because I've worked in the video game industry. I've worked in a lot of different kinds of things, but it's just chock full of art. So, you can kind of see,
right.
Wow, there's again one of the ink, and there's the color.
I can't compare that to anything.
Did
Like
Rhino guy?
the,
That's
the
incredible.
things in your mind. I don't know. This is just it's just top notch stuff.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Because the other thing is like with me, I think part of it is, okay, you hit 2 points that I really love. I like to have a little bit of a mystery so people don't, because when you're role playing or you're doing other things, everyone's got hit points. They've got this, how strong they are, this, that, all this stuff. And I kind of like a little bit of mystery, behind stuff. And so that you have to look at it and go, what? Or just creating that kind of having that fun. And then the other thing is to try and create a believability. So one of my old students, I was doing all these fish drawings a long time ago, and they just said, I just love your fish because they're so different and they're so weird looking, but I can see them swimming around and I can see them moving and I can see them actually being alive. So those are a couple things that are really kind of important to me as an artist. So, and my love of nature. And when you sit down and you start looking at nature and form follows function, I am an atlas of worthless information about nature, So, but thank you. I mean,
I love that.
The alien stuff was one of those things that's the thing, what everything you were talking about with the space jockey, it was that unique mystery. And then to me in Prometheus, when they just made him humanoid again, just like, here we are, we can break this, mold and really let's go to their planet and have them be the dum-dums, and they get eaten by bigger monstrous things. I mean, we can do it now. We can do all this stuff. And then everybody goes, well, here's an exciting thing to do with the Predator. Let's take him to Los Angeles. I mean, thank goodness for Guardians of the Galaxy, the first one, with doing the big Jack Kirby head flying in outer space.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
fun. Yeah. Way more fun stuff there. Yeah.
So Mark, now with you being here now at the zenith of your artistic career,
whoa, make it to the door. Oh!
Take us back to the beginning with young Mark.
I like that. Thank God you didn't go Haley's Comet. I mean,
when did you know, as a young man, that you wanted to be an artist? What inspired you to be an artist, and what was the final decision to make the leap?
It's. I almost became a vet, and there's a bunch of other things as a kid you almost become. But something that I really enjoyed was just drawing, and I sort of got hooked up into that kind of stuff. I took only one class in high school in art, and I did it more as an independent study because the stuff they taught was terrifying. And I had an incredibly tough teacher my freshman year, and he was one of the greatest teachers I've ever had. And he really set me on that course, and talked about your determination and things like that. And I came from an artistic family. My mother was an artist and my father was an artist. And my father, I learned my work ethic from because, he just drew all the time. And to tell you the truth, he just passed recently at 96, and he was getting ready. He was getting ready for another show. He was making drawings for the show. He literally stopped in the drawing to sit down and watch a little bit of the boob tube, and, stood up and went, and his heart, exploded, and that was it. He just sat back down. So, I mean, again, it's the thing that, and like with that Dover book, it's like something that I said is I'm a visual problem solver. So if people come to me and they want me to design a monster, no problem. And when I worked in the video game industry, they hired me without any computer skill because they looked at me and they said, because I'm in that fluctuation where the computer really took over. And they said, we can teach you survival Photoshop in 2 weeks, but we can't teach you how to draw and how to use your ideas. So once again, I look at the computer, I look at all this stuff in the studio, the pencils and the ink, and I go, they're tools to get your ideas out.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I work on a computer. The computer coloring in Photoshop and the computer or Painter has just spoiled the living daylights out of me for doing traditional painting, because I can cut masks and change things so quickly. And, you know, but I still do watercolors and I still do some acrylics, and I'm staring at my oils recently again, thinking about that. So the thing about being an artist is that you have this incredible playground that you can be involved with, and you can do all these different kinds of things. So I started out, I did the reverse thing. When you talk to most comic book artists in the 50s and 60s, what they did is they wanted to do comic books and then get well known and then move into the gallery and kind of retire. Well, I started in the gallery and slid down into comic books, if you want to look at it that way, in illustration. But I've met some absolutely brilliant people. I've met some great artists. I've inked some great artists. You know, the TSR guys, when I was there, I mean, it was Jeff Easley, Keith Parkinson, you know, Gerald Brom was there, Rob Ruppel, Larry Elmore, Clyde Caldwell, Jeff Butler. I mean, I learned so much just going up there and visiting with those guys, because I could see how they use their palettes, and nobody, you know, works the same. It's this whole thing like, what's that magic tool you're using? It's a fucking pencil, you know. It doesn't make a difference if it's, you know, an Eagle Murado or a 2H. It's, if it isn't the ideas and what you're trying to do is not working and coming out, then you know, that's your problem as the artist. And then the other thing, and I'll get in my soapbox for a second. When you were talking earlier about some of my drawings, there's a lot of things that I really relate to. That with Youngquist, what he taught me was, don't waste lines, don't make lines that aren't necessary, don't do, you know. So when you look at a lot of my stuff, it's pretty clean, and usually I don't have any whiteout on my drawings anymore. But with the crosshatch stuff, so much of that was done for like the TSR and different things. And you'll see in the book, there's a whole about an 8-page story that's all pretty elaborate crosshatching. But I think when you talk to most artists, like if you look at someone like Arthur Adams, who does do a lot of crosshatching in the backgrounds and that, it takes a long time to build that stuff up, you know. And with comics, since you're working under that constant pressure of that deadline of getting things out, you have the aficionados like Minola and Toth and those guys who give you just enough for what you need. And then you have other people that are incredible renderers. So we have a little bit of everything, you know. So sometimes if I have a shorter deadline, obviously I can't put in what I want. But with the Thunder Hunter stuff, you know, if I was going to spend 4 or 5 days just on one page, no big deal, because no one was going, we're trying to get the press, jerk bomb, you know, and things like that. So, yeah.
Mark, something jumped out at me in your career that I remember impacted me. Villains and Vigilantes, which was both a video game and, if I remember correctly, an Eclipse comic book?
I don't know if it was an Eclipse comic. That's Jack Herman and come on, Jeff D. He did a whole bunch of stuff for Dungeons and Dragons TSR also. And I met Jack through Just Imagine Comics, which was a little independent comic company in Naperville, Illinois. So I can go, hi, Denny and Jenny. You know, those guys brought together quite a crew that have all gone on. I mean, I don't know if you're familiar with Doug Rice, who did Dynamo Joe at first. Jill Thompson was some of her first work there.
Yeah, we had Doug on the show, actually.
Yeah. And, oh, come on. He did Wolverine. William Meisner Loebs did stuff for them. I did stuff for them. I think Joe Staten did a pinup or two. There was a lot of people that moved in and out and through that little company and have moved on. Rick Taylor went on into DC and became, you know, worked in the production team and did a lot of stuff. So we were kind of a happy, you know, it's kind of a fun little group that we kind of watched everybody go and move on. So that was great. So that's how I met Jack Herman, because he was friends with some of the people at, Just Imagine. And Jack and I tried to bounce some projects off people, which was, pretty much like trying to knock a Zeppelin down with a nickel, because, again, I've always been a little more on the fringes of stuff. I've inked superhero stuff, but I'm really not a superhero guy. Because
it's not where your heart is.
Yeah, there's too many guys out there that do it so beautifully and so well.
There's not.
You got any dinosaurs with pimples on the butt? I'll take that.
Maybe Devil Dinosaur you could work on. That would be kind of interesting.
It's just a T-Rex. That's vanilla.
I got in trouble with Devil Dinosaur before because I'm a huge Kirby fan, but I have this thing about believability and his teeth on Devil Dinosaur are just horrifyingly bad. I love Kirby. He created a pantheon of monsters and beasties that I grew up with and everything else, but that zigzag tooth, oh please, no.
Anatomy.
Leo,
but on the other hand, his energy is incredible. Just like when I look at him and I look at Jim Steranko, they're the same thing. The anatomy is there, but it's not as important as it would be to someone like Brian Bolin. Because Steranko will twist it, Kirby will twist it. Some of these guys can really twist it and get away with it. I just think it's hysterical that as Mike keeps drawing Hellboy, his shoulders keep going like this.
Yep. Yeah.
So you can watch people's style grow and change, but I'll tell you Mike Minola's story.
It happens.
Yeah, I was at a convention with Mike, and he kind of said, well, when I get older and my hand starts to shake, no one's going to notice it in my artwork. But realistically, you're fucked. Which I always loved. I was like, he's so right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Funny.
Mignola is like the consummate minimalist. His art wouldn't work if he didn't have as a mastery of light and dark as he does. He just understands where exactly the shadow would be. And it sort of doesn't matter that everything is so simple, because it just looks real. It looks fully rendered somehow.
He's
amazing.
The only guy that can get away with a panel.
Yeah.
3 little tiny domes in it. Tiny bubbles, and you go, you son of a gun.
I don't know. I don't know why I love him. It's tough.
You've inked on him, right?
He does stuff that no one else can do.
Yeah.
And that's what's so exciting. I mean, I can't do that because I'd have to, go in and rent. I'd have to put another ribbon for this or that, and But when I talked with Mike about some of that stuff a long time ago, his attitude was exactly what you said. How little can I draw to get what I want? So he would say at that time, it would take him a day to do 1 page of his pencils because he was. And when I inked one of his little short stories for Hellraiser, it was interesting because I saw a character that he had drawn and then erased completely away and then redrew it somewhere else on the page. So he was constantly fiddling with stuff back then to get exactly what he wanted. So it didn't matter if he had drawn the whole thing, he would just erase it and then redraw it the right way.
And his stuff is so minimalist that it's like the opposite of yours, because it requires the viewer to fill in the gaps like visually. You're not just wondering about story. You're wondering about like, okay, this is so far more simplified than reality. So what would this really look like? This frog creature, what would it really look? What would the skin be like? What would the texture be like? And you just let us know. You're like, well, it looks like this. This is what it looks like.
Well, the thing is that when you look at Mike, and I know he always, gives a great deal of credit to Dave Stewart, because the coloring in that book is just unbelievable. It's just beautiful. I mean, it's It's so well put together all the way around, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like anything else. It's like when you start thinking, we were talking earlier before we started about music groups, but there's been a lot of groups that I've enjoyed that started out as blues and then ended up as pop, you know. But you like to watch the transition as they're going through each different level. And when you look at the earlier Mike Mignola stuff, which is much more full of surfaces and what the heck is that? I mean, my phone is here, and something's buzzing over there, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, maybe it'll stop within a week or 10 days.
Alexa, stop.
No, I don't have an Alexa.
Worth a shot. Worth a
shot. When he gets back, Jar Jar, do you want to read the question?
Oh, you could probably read that. I'll screw it up. I'll fumble
no worries.
all around.
So, Mark, we had a comment and a question. So, Carrie is saying, the Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate expansion of Magic the Gathering had a great setup to let you use your detailed ink style that most other Magic the Gathering stuff doesn't have. It was almost like it was set up for you. Did you prefer that to the colored work you've done for them? And also a side question, the Dark Hatchling reminded me a lot of your Aliens work. Was that part of your inspiration for that card?
He's distracted.
Yep.
I mean, no, I heard all that. I'm trying to figure out what's buzzing. You know, I mean, I don't know what it would be. I mean, do you guys hear it? That's sort of.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna fuck with you.
I don't hear anything, Mark.
What is that? There's nothing going on. This guy's going crazy for some reason.
The thing about the Magic the Gathering stuff that they were doing there is they kind of wanted to go back and get the old D&D feel. And since I'd done so much of the old black and white stuff, they said, would you be adverse to doing black and white? And I'm like, no. I enjoy the color work, and it's a lot of fun. Right now, I'm working. I mean, this is.
Do you have a computer down there?
No. My computer is. My PC is off.
Is it the wife? Is she pranking us?
Boy, I don't know. Hold on. I'm sorry.
No worries.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
Stops. You know, it's kind of like. Yeah, and there's no phone here. That's my volume control for the TV. There's no TV.
As soon as he sits back down, it's going to ring.
Right.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So actually, I guess there's a small gnome in here that is doing the Thunder Hunters comic for me, and he's pissed off that I don't have him here. They asked me to do that. I also, as the gentleman said, I have done a lot of color stuff. And I am working on some things where it's inked and colored now, too. So I think what Magic is doing, which is, I think, kind of fun, is they're starting to mix up stuff again. When you first started with Magic, you know, you had people like Jeff Darrow actually doing some cards. So you had this great blend of different styles. And when Hasbro kind of took it over, they took more of a corporate attitude, you know, where you have to have a style guide and everybody has to work within that style guide. And if you didn't get work in that set. And then if you got, you know, the next set, they go, okay, your style fits in this set, so we would use you. And I think what happened is, if I have to say anything, I think it's a lot of the fans of Magic were kind of saying, we'd like to see some of the old stuff come back. We'd like to see, you know, some of the D&D stuff and all the fun stuff we did as, you know, kids. So they're experimenting a little bit more, and they're taking some chances with it. And that was a discussion I had with one of the art directors before he left. Was, you know, he was trying to get him to do a range of different styles again within the same set, so it's not always, you know, just this and that. So that's where that sort of comes in. And when somebody wants me to go back and do old black and white D&D stuff, since I did so many monster manuals, and I just think about all the black and white stuff I did for them from game modules to dragon interiors to dungeon interiors. It's kind of fun because black and white is a medium within itself, and that's why you guys all reacted to it when you put the color alien stuff. I was kind of like, oh God, yeah.
Sorry, it's the only one I can find.
Where's my air sickness bag? Because if you're designing for black and white, you've got to be really careful with color to how you put it in, and more of a limited palette and different kinds of things. So, I'm going to be honest. 100%. That's my opinion.
No, I fully agree with that. I've had this conversation with other people before too, that, if you're, I mean, if I'm going to go back to the real one here, I mean, look how much black we have in here, right? It's deliberate. Like that is there specifically because it was not meant to be colored. You specifically drew this for black and white. And
go to the very end of the book and go to the frontispieces that they reproduced. All right, there it is again.
There it is again. I love this stuff. These pieces are.
Those are my favorites.
This is the best aliens have ever looked.
Do they have all the covers in the back of that?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah,
and I have to find this one since we're here. I believe it was the cover. Here it is here. Okay. So you guys see this one right here.
Yep.
This guy. My 12-year-old self bought a t-shirt with that on it at my local comic book shop very, very long time ago, and I kept that t-shirt for about 25 years, and I kept it in rotation. I couldn't bear to part with it. I eventually did, but it was that piece, and I didn't know that who drew that for the longest time. I didn't know, and anyway, it was yours, Mark. So I was a billboard for you for like, I don't know, a couple decades there.
Well, the big question is, Mark, did you get any royalties from that shirt?
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
That's what it is.
Well, I mean, again, there's all sorts of different things that when you work for hire and you're doing that kind of stuff, you don't always, the secondary market, you're not going to always get something in. That'll depend on how good the people are that are working with you, and if they're willing to, cut you in on some of that stuff. And that's a whole nother thing I really don't want to get into, because really, in a sense, you're, I did a product which is 20th Century Fox's creation, and I brought life to their, franchise by doing the comic, and Dark Horse Comics took a chance with me and, and Verheyden, and it worked out well. So that's a book that made, Dark Horse stand out as a good publisher, and made me stand out as an artist, and made Verheyden stand out as a writer. So it was a win-win situation. But once again, that's 20th Century Fox's property. Now, Thunder Hunters is all mine.
Yeah.
So, that's where I'm 100%. And the world building book that I showed you, that's all mine too. So that's all the work that I do. That's me. So, excuse me. If you get those books, both of those books, you're helping me survive as an artist and keep going and keep doing things, which I think.
And don't forget, there's a $10 ink slot, so people can even just get you a bottle of ink.
Well, people don't realize that, that's how much a bottle of ink costs for me, is $10.
Wow.
It's pretty funny. And I did that because a lot of the other guys were doing things like buy me a drink, buy me a cigar.
Oh, yeah.
Buy me this and that. So I said, I figured out what it was. Was my wife's phone. That's what was going on. You left it in here.
Hi.
Come here. You want to say hi? Just
hi.
No.
There she is.
That's good.
Because I was going to say, they asked about how we met in art school, and I said, you tell them the litho story just because you love to sink my boat. But see,
it's a dirty word involved.
That's okay.
We love dirty words.
We don't have virgin ears. It's okay.
Neither
Well,
do
how
I.
long is this podcast?
As long as we have you for.
Yeah, as
Well,
long as
okay.
you until you tap out, we'll hold you here. So
Okay.
you got to
Well,
let us know.
the short version.
Sure.
Well, we met each other's art before we met each other.
I told them that. Yeah.
Okay. And then I was grinding a stone in the litho shop, and somebody came in, looked at what I was doing, and said to the guy that was instructing me how to do it, said, "She's fucking up her stone." That was romance from that point on.
Yeah,
wonderful.
I'm so subtle. Yeah, you know.
Nice.
He said you drop kicked him.
Yeah.
Well, a couple of times.
Well, she was learning karate at one point, and she said,
"Oh,
now you know what we learned? We can kick really close without hitting. So let me show you." Boop, and was straight to the groin, and I just bent over at a right angle, and I went, "That's nice."
My calculus was off.
Yeah.
Yeah, we commended your cleaning job on the whole area. So
yeah, we were pretty impressed with his studio.
Oh,
you keep it very nice for him.
I do.
No, she doesn't. She hates it out here. But they brought up the pencil paintings that you did.
Oh yes.
And so I had to tell
They were
them
amazing.
Colorado number 2
Oh,
story.
the Eagle Morado number 2. Yes. The hour lecture that I got on a simple pencil. The Eagle Morado number 2. So I did a whole series. Yes. And then I did a show of it.
I thought they were beautiful.
You're watching the artist squirm, you know. Like hot cement, hot day, earthworm.
Yeah. I use pencil shavings. Okay.
Yeah, Mark, what area of the country are you guys in?
We're now down in, I call it the surface of the sun, Houston, Texas.
Oh,
Okay.
wow.
Where we have two temperatures, hot and hotter.
Oh boy.
I mean, in the middle of winter, it was 81 degrees, you know, and I'm just sitting there sweating. So she loves it because her garden is out there. It's just like, you know, it's like you plant something like this, and within 2 weeks, it's 9 feet tall, you know.
Yeah. Jeremy is he's a gardener himself.
Yes.
Of course, Mark, he's on plants around the yard, which helps them grow even faster.
Whoa.
Geez, what number Audrey are you on down there?
Boy, see, that's the thing, you know. She says things in public that most people hesitate to say in private. So
yeah, a watering can.
I do not do that. Stop it. She feeds the
Now
ducks
you're
and the
going to
deers.
regret that I was here.
These
No,
guys
he
are
doesn't.
these guys are just having great fun with this. They're going to go.
We sure are. This is what you call podcasting gold right here.
Oh yeah,
right here.
This is what we live for. Wait until Velvet cuts it up and puts it on a bunch of different reels and stuff.
What I do.
I'll make those plants die, and then
I've
grow.
never
They
done that
grow.
to you. I've never done that to you.
No, you never done it.
Okay, so I just want to say that.
Got my phone.
But that's what the culprit was her cell phone doing that, and I couldn't find it, and I'm like looking around, and I
couldn't find it either. You should have heard
realized
the
you-
words coming out of that one.
you know, oh, it's in the studio, and he's not dressed.
So funny.
I think it's just fortunate you were wearing pants for this interview, Mark, because you might have gotten up without thinking. You're like, yeah, I mean, well, we saw. See, that's the thing.
not
It's
a
possible you
skin
might have not thought of it, and you're like, I got to find the.
Oh,
See, that's what I was doing, dear. I kept hearing that phone ringing, and I'm looking all over. I'm like, where is it? And those guys are like asking questions. You know, there's a fan here that wants to know why you're wandering around like a homeless man in a carnival. You know,
That's okay. Carrie,
We're all nerds.
Carrie's
Got
laughing
nothing
too.
else.
So
yeah,
Okay,
we've got
good.
nothing else better to do but be here. So
I know you're
very
joking
true.
about the no pants thing, but that actually happened on a show one time.
oh really?
that you forgot you weren't wearing pants, Leo?
The guests totally
oh
forgot.
my.
Oh my god, that's the best.
That-
Wanna reveal
Anything
who
can
the
happen
guest
on
was?
splash pages, folks.
Wow.
Well,
You don't want to reveal who the guest was, Leo?
All right.
No, because she is a high profile actress.
Oh,
Ah.
the better half is leaving. So say goodbye.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks for calling us the
Thanks for being our special guest.
Stop it.
Oh my God. Amazing.
Uh,
That was amazing. That was fantastic.
No, Mark, you
she's
taught for
hysterical.
20 years at Northwestern Illinois University.
Northern Illinois University in DeKalb, Illinois.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you miss teaching at all?
I taught in a couple other places since I left there, but when I left there, I went up into the video game industry for about 8 years. Then I went back into teaching for 5 years, then back into the video game industry. And now I'm freelance, and I did a couple years of teaching in different places, but now I'm pretty much, we're anchored in, and I'm just enjoying the freelance and being able to do Thunder Hunters. So I've always kind of, well, the thing about it, and in all honesty, since you could ask too, is when you go into a classroom and you've got a bunch of students that are really there to learn, which is one thing. And I had some great students at Madison, and I had some great students at Northern, but they challenged me to become a better artist because I would have to, I'd present an illustration problem to them to work on, and all their ideas are so different. It's not the same. Each person has a different way of thinking, working it out. So I kind of had to deal with all these different personalities and all these different ideas. So, excuse me, I got an itchy nose. So when I was done during the day, I would go home and I was fired up to draw even more because these guys spurred me on and did that kind of stuff. And I'm still in contact with a bunch of the students. We get together because a bunch of them are in comics, a bunch of them are in fantasy, a bunch of them are doing magic cards, and even some of the students that went on to move into other things. One student that graduated illustration went on to become an incredible, cake pastry chef. And she does great stuff, but
Cool.
A lot of her artistic skill with the airbrush and that has helped, create some unique looking cakes and things like that. So again, it's what you use your tools for and, what you do your creativity. But yes, I do enjoy teaching. But when I first started teaching, the students would come up and say, what do I have to do to pass your class? And I would say this, and this, And at the last place I taught, the students said, well, I came to class, I should get a B. And I actually did the projects you assigned, so I should get an A. And
Okay.
I was quite taken back by that because I'm very much a workman type of, personality. You've got to produce the work, I mean, when I was doing freelance work, nobody knew I taught for the longest time because I didn't talk about it. The only thing that sells you is your portfolio and your skills. And that's what I always would work on. And if I had to draw something 4 times to get it right, I drew it 4 times to get it right. And that's all there was to it. So, yeah, when students just go, you say, you got to redraw this and rework this. And in a couple cases, the last place I taught, they actually got mad at me because I said that to them. So it's like, well, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, when you go out there, it's not like, you walk into Marvel and they go, that's the best looking thing I've ever seen. Bad you drew him like the Hulk, I mean, the amount of changes you end up having to make and the amount of things, because I would tell them, look, I worked at a software company and I worked on the Star Wars game and they created a ship called the Raven. And I did over 17 different designs for it before they agreed on one.
No kidding.
And yeah,
Wow.
you just, it's like, well, because someone would say, make the engines bigger, make this smaller, do this, do that, do this, do that. And you
I'm
have
a professional.
Well, no, I mean, the thing is that you do have art directors
Oh,
and you
of
have
course.
people that have an opinion. And really, my attitude, again, workmanlike, was, look, they were paying my check. So that means if they want me to draw 17 of those things, perfectly fine with me. I'll try and do the best I can to resolve it. Now, if they came into my studio here and started giving me a critique on what I need to change in Thunder Hunters, then I might say you need to take a long walk off a short pier, you know. Because again, that's my stuff. That's the stuff that's 100% me.
Yeah.
So, but even when people do come and make suggestions, I'll listen because, you know, sometimes they've come up with some really good ideas and things. And I'm not, I'm not that sold that, oh my God, how can you say something about, It's, it's the art, and if you draw a bad face, you drew a bad face, and that's all there is to it. So you need to correct it, or if someone sees it and goes, "Those are a really bad face," you go, "Okay, what can I do to correct it?" That's all part of the learning process, and it's, again, I try to would tell the students, if somebody is saying something about your artwork to criticize you to get you to grow, that's not a criticism of you. Now, if they said your artwork is really bad and you're ugly, now that's a criticism of you, And then they say, I want a second opinion. And the person says, you're stupid too. Then that's personal, So again, it's that whole thing of, the people I learned the most from when I was in school were the people that challenged me, The teachers that said, that's really nice, do another one, and then left the room, I didn't learn anything from.
Yeah.
The guys that said, you need to bone up on your crosshatch. But then again, on the other hand, there's a lot of and you hit the nail on the head, Steve, where I prefer, letting the line weight and the line value do most of the work. So again, it's God, there's so much. But I'll tell you what, look at that octopus drawing again.
Mm-hmm.
The octopus
over on the zoo.
Yeah, and then look at all the accoutrements on his black vest, because there's a ton of cross hatching in there.
Yeah, I saw some by his beak too, and so you do it, but man, compared to how many lines are not crossing,
cool.
Honestly, if people aren't looking at a piece of your art right now as we're talking, I don't know if they're just listening or something. A dollar bill is a good example. There, the portraits on a dollar bill, there are intersecting lines there, but it's not really cross hatching. They're doing, you're seeing like contour type lines, and they're all equidistant to each other, and that's the sort of basic idea I think that might get them there if they're not looking at a piece of your art right now. But that octopus guy, my God.
Yeah, but even like the brocade has so much detail. Even that scarf piece has detail, and then under the cloak is even more insane amount of detail.
Yeah, and let's also not forget to mention that you have a little tiny bit of Mike Mignola in this drawing, specifically because his cloak is satin black, just perfect featureless black. Now you could have filled all that in, sure, but then it would have been maybe too much. Maybe that's over the line. That's now just busy at this point. The way that you did it allowed the details you felt like rendering to pop. And oh my God, yeah. So my main podcast is not this one. I'm on the network with these fine gentlemen here. My main show is Retro Redoctopus. So anything that's octopus is for me. And this is my buddy. This is my guy right here. I love this dude so much.
Now,
and I love the shrimp guy that's driving the walrus. I don't know what else to call it.
Well, you kind of like his face is compressed down because the strap's too tight,
Yep.
And that's sort of the fun thing. And actually, the drawing next to it is another Regal thing. And if you look at that, there's a ton of detail. That was one of my first big drawings that I did for the Thunder Hunter stuff. And that's one of my favorite drawings I've ever done.
And that's charcoal, right? Or
no, that's a Verithin pencil and white Prismacolor on gray paper.
Amazing.
And Mark, is that piece over the character's shoulder reminiscent of a talus, or it looks like possibly the talus from Judaism or American Indian, or a combination thereof?
I would say, in all truthfulness, yes. So, I mean, the thing is that I do so much research into. I'm a huge Joseph Campbell fan, because if you really look at that one too, there are some of those little vials that people would carry with them, like here's a toenail clipping from, St. Josephrasa or this or that or different things. And then as you work your way up, you'd get a little, I don't want to call it a Boy Scout badge, but, you look at the amount of,
looks like he's wearing some trilobites.
Yes, that's one of my weaknesses.
I'm
a huge trilobite fan. And actually,
Nice.
if you do look at the octopus guy, if you look at his shoulder, that's sort of a stylized
Nautilus.
Thank you. God, boy, the words are just dropping out of my head. Anyway, yeah, it's a real stylized Nautilus in there. So yeah, there's so much stuff that I'll look up and I do research in other drawings that I've done. Because what you're really seeing here is the comic book stuff, and I still do gallery kind of things, but not that often.
Mark, are you familiar with an artist by the name of Terrell Whitlatch?
Of course.
I'm a humongous fan of Terrell. She's been on my show before, and for those of you who don't know, she's a concept artist. She's an illustrator. She did all of the creatures for the Phantom Menace, and she did some Star Wars stuff before that too. She was also in charge of making when they redesigned the Dewback when they were doing the special edition in the mid '90s and stuff.
So Leo loves, right?
The Dewbacks?
The 90 special editions.
Oh yeah, and they suck, but that's not her fault. She did amazing work. She didn't make Han shoot first, or the band sucked. But no, I mean, one of the things that she was talking about is it really reminds me of some of the stuff you're saying, where every bit of these fanciful things come from somewhere. She's not going to ever do anything that's not biologically. There isn't a biological example of on Earth. Anatomy is always there. You're always figuring out what's underneath. She does skeletal structure, then musculature, and then the skin and the fur, and she'll do series of drawings of one creature just to figure out how they would move. It's really interesting stuff.
She's got a great set of books out that you should have. I've got all three in my library, and I was lucky enough at Spectrum to meet her. And
cool.
When I was first on Facebook, so this was a long time ago, I went, "Wow, there's Terrell Whitlatch."
Yeah.
So I sent her a note and I said, "Dear Miss Whitlatch, I'm a huge fan of your work," and blah blah blah.
We did the same thing.
I just
want to know if you'd want to be friends. And she retorted by saying, "Yes, and I know your work too, Mark."
Oh. See, this story did not happen the same way for me. Now we've diverged at this point.
Well,
that's great though. To have somebody like you call up and be like, because I know you're a huge fan of a lot of artists. You have original art all over your house and stuff, and to have you call up and be like, "Hey," or send a message, "Hey, I'm a huge fan," and they're just like,
"Yeah,
you're Mark Nelson." What?
Yeah.
Well, I always just say I'm the other one. No. But I've been lucky enough. When you were bringing up the black, I got to ink, as I said, Mike Pinola in that Hellraiser story. But when you're inking someone else's work, for me, I'm not one of those people that goes in and just inks the way I would want to draw it. I try to bring out what's in their pencils. So, and I've inked, like I said, Joe Staten. I got to ink Manola. I got to ink Kevin O'Neill and Martial Law. And working on these people and seeing their pencils and then seeing how can I keep their idea or the strength of what they had, as consistent as I possibly can. It makes you think about that stuff. So, yeah. I learned a lot about blacks when I inked Mike, and that was just a lot of fun because, he has no problem with that stuff. It's like black. Okay. How much you want kind of thing, and so, yeah, I can't say that I haven't had a great experience inking it. And I've met some, another person, if we're name dropping, I guess, Ian McCaig is somebody who I got to meet and got to know, and we talk every now and then. And the other guy who I just met about 2 years ago was Jim Steranko, you know, and he's always been a hero of mine. Always, you know.
Yeah.
So it's so much fun to meet some of these people because
Did he live up to the hype?
you know, how can I say this? There are people that you're going to meet that for some reason, you know, you take like one person and 10 people meet him and 5 of them go, this guy needs to be thrown off a bridge. And the other 5 go, yes, he can marry my daughter, you know. Now, Steranko and I got in a huge conversation about film noir and all these different things and directors and lighting and movies. And then we talked about comic books and we did that. And, you know, so I was just kind of shaken because it was like, and he looked at me and goes, you really know your shit, son. You know, and I'm like, wow, you know. And I gave him a copy of the fantasy world building book. And this year when I got together with him, he looked at me and he said, you know, I was coming out here and I went in my studio and I found this little thin book. And he says, yeah, there it is. That one right there. And he points to it and then he picks it up. He says, this is a book of a lifetime. There's 10 years worth of experience in this book. Wow. He says, all your drawings were pristine. And he just went on and on. And, you know, you're just kind of like going back like Frosty the Snowman. Your eyes are getting bigger. You start to perspire. Here is this guy who really, to me, was one of the huge, you know, Adams and Steranko that just changed the whole face of comics at that time. And here he is complimenting some little bonehead from North Dakota. You know, and I was just like, wow. You know, so I have to admit that was a very, you know, eye-opening experience. So I've had just great experiences with meeting that gentleman. There's been a few other people that I've met that I honestly say I wish I never had, because once you meet somebody and they're kind of a, well, I'll put it bluntly, a dick, you know, it's really hard to look at their artwork again because you're going, you just wrecked it for me. I loved your art. And I met you and you were such a pompous, you know, and you can't look at their artwork the same. And I hate that because
that is so true.
I love so much artwork. I mean, because what you're talking about is that I have a little library in the house, which is nothing but just comic book and artists. And I've got, you know, French albums, German albums, Italian albums, you know, I mean, Stuart Ing and, Tony Riallo. I don't know if any of you guys used to go to San Diego Con. Tony Riallo used to have booths and he had the best collection of just strange stuff you've never seen. I have a whole edition of the Russ Manning Tarzan that he did for, you know, the Sunday papers.
Wow.
And it's just, there are so many good people out there that I can't help but buying the books and just going over them and just having so much fun, you know. So like a lot of times when I get like into a doldrum, you know, I have a Corbin selection that's pretty big, and I'm a huge Corbin fan, and I love his early underground stuff. And you know, Jack Jackson and Jeremy, not Jeremy Irons, Greg Irons, excuse me. Jeremy's the actor. Greg Irons. I mean, a lot of these guys were just doing great stuff, but you know, they were pretty hardcore into the horror and sex. So if that offends you, you know, it's not going to be the greatest stuff to look at. But
do you know Greg Staples? Yeah,
I don't know him personally. I know
his stuff. He did a lot of he did like Judge Dredd stuff, and his black and white inking is oh my god,
it's unbelievable.
He's
great
unbelievable.
Stuff. There are so many. I mean, I got to meet Boland, you know, and
oh wow,
I don't even want to tell you where we met and what we did, but it was so.
You mean Chaz Boland?
He is so humble, and we were just sitting there eating our lunch, and he just kind of said, "I don't get it. I don't know why people like my artwork. I just don't understand it. You know, I see the mistakes and things like that. You know, so that was a guy that was like, wow, you know, to meet him was just incredible. Dave Gibbons was another one that I met recently.
Oh yeah.
and he's just a phenomenal guy.
Yeah.
And Gerard, who inked the Cerebus stuff, I met him. I didn't, I mean, there was a period where I was doing a lot of conventions. Then there's about a 15.
Are you not doing them now?
I'm doing a few now and then. I don't do a lot. I used to do a lot more. And
I guess you're not going to be a surprise announcement for Terrificon. Damn it.
Terrificon?
It's up here in New England.
Well, tell them if they want me to come, give me a call,
I'll let Mitch know.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be great. Yeah, Terrificon's gotten pretty big.
Oh yeah. It's
what
don't know
happened was when I was working at the video game company, they were saying that doing conventions and some of that stuff was a conflict of interest, so they stopped me from doing it.
Wow.
So that's why I had a big period where I wasn't for about 10 years there, not doing really anything.
Was that when you were at P Studios?
Pi.
Oh, Pi Studios.
That's great because, I mean, that was an experience that I'll never forget. It's what brought me down here. And the guy that owned the company just went through the money like water, and we all got canned. So, but Raven Software was, they got bought by Hasbro, and they went from being in a great little, I was one of 33 people, so I got to do so many different things. And then when they became corporate, they ramped up to 3 different sort of groups, each working on different games and things like that. So it went from like 30 to 140 or something like that.
Right.
So that
Leo's our big video game guy, and I know on that with Pi Studios worked on Call of Duty 3 and Halo 2 Vista.
Oh, no kidding.
And Raven, was that Heretic 2?
Yep, I worked on Heretic 2, Soldier of Fortune, Elite Force, Star Trek Jedi Knights 1 and 2. And then I worked on the Doom game, which I keep getting, it's sitting right up there, and I keep getting
Quake 4, right?
Quake 4, thank you. My problem is that I'm not really as big a video game player because, I like doing the art, and then seeing your models run around, you'd work up the designs, the guys would build them, and then you'd paint the skins, and I'd be watching them running going, I got to work on that. Got to work on this. Oh, that scene really looks like crap. So you're doing that kind of stuff. So you're always constantly fixing things. And they always said is that when we would play test, I was always, I would say, look, put me on the simplest level. And they would go, they'd go, we could always tell when you're playing because you'll walk along and your character's like looking up and looking down. Because I'm looking at all the seams and how everything looks, because like someone said, if you are noticing the background, then you've done something wrong in the game because you shouldn't be noticing that. You should be noticing just the player and moving through and all this and the silhouette values. And so I have to admit, I always played the simple level. So I was always the guy that would find the really simple, where some code was wrong, so you'd walk into a wall and get stuck, Whereas
so
if I'm playing the hardest level that there is, only Superman with an injection of whatever could make it through, So, and I'm kind of like, what's that door do again?
Hopefully
so you would have figured out the Truman Show pretty quick. You would have been like, no, I see where the horizon is meeting.
Yeah,
that's a wall. Right. That is a wall all day long.
Crowds aren't freaking moving.
Yeah, we had a couple comments come in. Carrie said, I'm a huge Hellraiser fan, and your female sent a bite for Off-White.
Officer White.
With the stretch face and the abundance of hook chains is just brilliant. Looking at it now, you used a fair amount of cross-hatching on the leather as well as in the white and skin highlights. I'm just fangirling on this one. And she says,
question, just good job.
And I guess actually as it was commissioned, how much direction did you have on that piece as far as what elements to use in it?
Well, Officer White, Off-White, yeah, he calls himself Off-White, Officer White. he pretty much said, I want a female Cenobite, and then kind of took a powder. And not really, but he said that, and I said, okay, I'll give you something you want. How horrible do you want it? Because again, I feel weird because I got noticed doing funny animal stories for the backup of Nexus, which is Clone Zone, the Hilaritor. And Baron wanted me to draw like Disney with really simple line and that kind of stuff. And then I go to Godzilla, and then I go to Aliens, and then I go to Hellraiser. Well, that gets pretty brutal. Hellraiser is, and that's another person I got to meet was Clive Barker, and that was an incredible experience. That man is he's a genius. He created a horror icons that has changed the face of horror, but he's also brilliant because with you saw Anita here, and the three of us, excuse me, and this is going to sound weird. We got in a huge discussion about 18th century English painters. Now, how many people, yeah, it is. And, odd because A, I knew what I was talking about. B, Anita knew more than me. And Clive knew more than the two of us put together. So wow. It's incredible because he knows his art history. He knows his theater. He knows, he's very classically trained. He's, talking with him about stuff is just absolutely, 2 hours just disappeared like that. So, as I said, I've been so lucky to work with some of those people. And when you think about what horror is, because I know that even with the alien stuff, a couple of people have said to me, boy, even when you shoot people, the blood splatter looks elegant.
Yeah.
What
a compliment.
You can do things to create different kinds of tension depending on what you want to do. And that's why I say, how far you want me to go. Because I actually did a Hellraiser story on how they created the boxes, and I know that Clive really liked the story, so I was quite happy about that. But sometimes, a little off camera can really create a great mood too. And so, again, how far, you guys know who Tim Vigil is, right?
I don't.
I do not.
Okay. Well, that guy, who I love his work, don't get me wrong, he leaves nothing for your imagination, and it's pretty raw. And I've loved his work. He did a comic book called Faust, Faust, which got made into a movie, which was the same kind of way. So you have to, again, it's how far are you willing to suspend your disbelief or let people push you into a whole nother room within that house that you live in.
Very cool.
Tom is asking, of the many video games you worked on, what would you say is your most rewarding?
Well, the thing about that with me, and again, because I'm more workman, is that each project you work on presents you with a new set of problems. And the one thing that I was really happy with in Quake 4, and I don't know if I should tell you guys this, but Quake 4, the machines take over. They're stretching the human skin and the muscles over a machine and doing all sorts of horrific things. Well, I had to do this horrific machine, and I went and I looked up stuff on the internet, and I found a photograph of a body that had been floating in a tub for 4 days.
Ooh.
Yeah. And I used that as my reference to create the rotting flesh on this one character and a thing. And I knew it worked because when everybody in the office went, oh, so, and it was supposed to be that. So it worked. So that's kind of a fun thing. When I worked on Heretic 2, I got to design some of the great creatures, and I got to paint like a lot of skins on characters that Brahm had designed. So that was a lot of fun. Star Trek Elite Force, it was split into sort of two worlds. It was the traditional Star Trek world by the Star Trek Bible. And then it was like, okay, we're going off and like what Janeway into a whole new world. Well, I just said, give me the whole new world. Let everybody else, because they were big, huge Star Trek fans. And they did all the traditional Star Trek stuff. And and I got to design all the. So that game, if you play it, everything except for like one spaceship and one character in the alien world, I designed, painted, and drew. So that was great. Doing the Star Wars stuff was a whole different thing because you're really dealing with classic, iconic to me, science fiction. So there was a lot of stuff, but I got to design the bad guy, Nam Desant, and that was the big lizard guy in the game. And it was kind of fun because I bought a comic book because Dark Horse was doing the Star Wars comics, and someone had put my character as the main bad guy in one of the stories. So that was just fun. So everything has its kind of, as I jokingly say to people, it's sort of like going to a mother of 7, who's your favorite child? They all have they all have their perks. I mean, as I always say, my brother was my brother was the only child, my mother's favorite.
Was his name Tommy Smothers?
So any
Tommy Smothers?
Yeah. Any other questions popping up?
No other questions that popped up. I do know we want to be respectful of your time, so definitely. We did have a couple news items that we wanted to go over. I don't know if you wanted to stay for those or if you wanted to bail. It's totally up to you. Whatever time you have available.
Well, no, I figured that we would be at this for a while, so.
Awesome.
I mean, I got a lot of drawing done earlier today, so I just figured this would be my relaxing time. And I know as soon as I get off, I'll probably hit the boards anyway. But anyway, yeah.
Well, Mark, is there anything else that you want the general populace to know about the newest project?
Well, it's been a love of mine, and yes, I've worked on it for quite a few years. It started out as a sort of Western dinosaur comic, and then it evolved into what I'm doing now. So I still have the first version, which I want to finish too. So, I mean, it's just a lot of fun. And I think you guys have been generous enough to point out some of the artwork and things like that. If you go to Zoop, you can see the artwork in more detail. If you go on my Facebook page, which is I do Mark A. Nelson and then Grazing Dinosaur Press, you can see a lot of the drawings blown up firsthand. And if you go to www.grazingdinosaurpress.com, that is our website, and you can see a neat. Oh, there you go. You can see a neat, and there's one of my personal drawings from the Broken Angel series.
Beautiful.
And the other thing you can see is a lot of really Anita's wonderful work too. And then on YouTube, if you type in Grazing Dinosaur Press, I have a whole bunch of drawing tutorials and things like that. So I'm all over the map. I do a lot of different kinds of things. And I just enjoy the living daylights out of drawing and doing everything, Yeah, wow. There's some pencil drawings.
Imagination.
Someone said something interesting to me. They're like going, "Oh, I just have to find my style. I don't know what I'm doing." And I said to them, think about Mel Blanc, think of how many different voices he created, different characters and what they're doing. So as you look through a lot of my work, there's stuff that's more playful. There's stuff that's a little darker. That's okay. There's a piece I did when my cat passed. That's my Ziffel. And if you see the big drawing, it actually does say Ziffel 17 up in the machine bits there. And the strange thing about that cat, he definitely, all his oars weren't in the water, but he would go, and if you made a pie, he would go and he would just eat the crust and then leave the rest. Or if you brought in a loaf of bread, you went to the grocery store, you brought in bread, he would pull it out of the bag, chew through the plastic, eat a little bit of it, and then knock it on the floor so the dog could get it. So he was a pretty crazy cat. He was a lot of fun. And that's why I've got him. He's got all these accoutrements on to fix the burning screw there. And he's got a piece of pie with the crust eaten. You know,
Are Zigzag and Zuzu still around?
Zuzu is in the Great Palette in the Sky. Zigzag is still with us.
I'm sorry to bring them up then.
No, it's
Damn
okay.
It. Oh, okay.
We've had 3 dogs and we've had 5 cats. So you just you get used to those. I did a book called One Mad Cat, and it's I call it how do you get along with a 4-legged fur-bearing poop factory. Because we love those guys. It was so much fun, yeah. And when Zeke was my cat, the black cat. When he passed, I was so upset. I mean, I did that whole book, and I'm still drawing black cat drawings, and I'm just having fun. So yeah, they affect you. They really do, and we love those guys. So yeah, you can see a lot of different kinds of things. So like I said to her, the Mel Blanc thing is like, some days you wake up and you want to draw little happy turtles dancing around with each other, giving candy to little kids. And then the next day you wake up and you want to take the snapping turtle, biting the fingers off the kids. So which one's right? I mean, it's kind of tough if you think I can only do a certain thing, but, because think about musicians and think about the people that stretch, their thought process into so many different ways, even writers, you look at writers and, sometimes a Ray Bradbury story will have a real whimsical touch of humor, like The Electrical Grandmother. And then sometimes there's some pretty dark stuff,
The Veld.
Yes, The Veld. That's, there you go. And if did you see the movie, The Illustrated Man?
No,
I've never seen it.
Tiger? Well, in it, one of the stories is set on Venus, and God, they're walking through this forest, and it's just pouring rain, and it's droning. You're just like, and they're yelling at each other, and they find the safety dome, and they go in, and it's like deathly quiet. There's no sound. And in the theater, you're like, and all of a sudden it stops and your ears start ringing, and it was pretty incredible. So there are some things that you can do that really are fun that way.
Tom's actually got a good question.
Sure.
Are you hitting up a free comic book day this Saturday?
I didn't. I should have planned on something like that, but I just made the mistake. I don't always keep track of everything that I should, because
I'm surprised your LCS didn't just say, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah. I know that with down here, Bedrock City has been an absolutely boon to me. They've been great people, and they've had me come in during some of the free comic days, and I sit and hawk my wares and do that kind of stuff. But I know, see, like, this to me is fun because I know when I hang up, I'll be 10 feet away, well, less.
Oh, yeah.
The drawing table. And sometimes, as you're carting all your stuff in and setting it all up, and then taking it all down and carting it back and putting it on the way, I get a little crabby as I get older.
Oh, it takes forever.
Son of a bitch.
Well, I know my co-host here, Jeremy, shared your crowdfunding thing on he has an event, or he has a whole group. Why don't you tell him about it, Jeremy?
Oh, I run a comic buy sell trade page on Facebook with like 20,000 people, and not to say that it helped any, but I shared your thing yesterday. It had I think it was 204, and now you're at 213 backers. So look at that. I brought them in. Yeah.
Who's to say you didn't? Who's to say you didn't?
Well, that's the one thing about all this crowdfunding is, with Facebook and their algorithms and Instagram.
Oh, right.
Man, I have been fighting with that. Like, I'll spend 2 to 3 hours just to get about,
I used to get
emails out.
Used to get like 50, 60 hits on a post, and now I'm lucky to get 5. I'm just like, what the hell happened?
I remember at one point I was at like, 1,300 hits on Facebook for some of the stuff. This was a while back. Now you're lucky to get, like you said, 15 to 20. And the thing which kills me is they go, you have 7,000 followers. And I'm just saying to myself, well, shouldn't I at least be able to hit 10% of that?
No, it's like 1% at this point. Yeah, I was just having the same conversation with my brother. It's the weirdest thing. Twitter's even worse. It's like you see these people who get like, 30,000 likes on Twitter. It's like, yeah, you look at their followers and they're in the millions. It's like, 30,000, that sounds like a lot. And then you're like, what? No.
And it is weird because I went through all my friends lists and I started sending a private message, which I don't like to do, to friends, and then Facebook would stop me after so many. They would say, "Well, it looks like you're sending out spam," right? So then I'd wait. I'd do some. The next day I'd do some more, and it's amazing because even now I've hit a couple of friends. And it's been up for almost a month, and they're like, "I didn't see it. Thanks for messaging me." And like I said, people go, "Oh, I'm sharing it," and I'll go there, and their share will get like 5 or 6 hits. So yeah, it's weird. I don't. It's supposed to be a social media that we're supposed to be able to get things out to people, but then they're like, "Oh no, you're making."
Yeah, they fight you 100% of the way.
They want you to pay.
Yeah. Because I've also heard from someone that they said, I did the boost, and if you don't keep doing them, they drop you back down again.
Right.
It's sort of it's just a.
I know this is totally old school, but I hear it still works. Have you thought about doing a email list?
I have some emails that I've sent out to people, and I know that when we did the first book, Steve Smith and I, he did he gave all his email addresses to the zoo people and for the Lovecraft book. And again, they're handling that. I'm handling my stuff. So yeah, I keep trying to go back in, but you're right. That's old school. And that's what, everybody is very, if you say to them, "Hey, would you give me your email list?" No, because they don't. They're pretty protective about that. And I don't blame people, And you guys are kind enough to have me on, and I did Graham. I did a bunch of shows.
Oh yeah.
You see some shows, you'll see a big spike. Some shows you just see 2 or 3. And so again, it's that whole thing. I don't know, because every night, you could have the show the same night, and one night you're going to hit a lot more people, and the next night you're not going to, or this or that. And you guys all know in the social industry, it's sometimes it's a little bit of a crapshoot.
Yeah, and it's always interesting too, because like we may only have like 10 or 12 live people watching throughout the show, but then I'll check a week or two on the YouTube, and it'll be like 60 viewers, 120 viewers, and you're like, "Oh, I don't know when they're watching it, but cool."
Well, and then all the different clips, and then we're also doing the radio, and it's
yeah, and that's the whole thing. So you guys are. Your base is spreading out with doing all this, so that helps a lot too.
Absolutely. And I always chop up our show into clips, so I'll be getting the word out too. Go out to all the major platforms. So.
Well, we got about 8 days left, so I guess I'm not getting my gold-plated Cadillac and living in the Caribbean. So
I'm sure we can hit that $18,000 stretch, though. Like
that would be nice.
That would. Is there a reason you chose Zoop over, like, say, Kickstarter or
that's a good question. I was
the million other ones?
Well, the main reason I picked Zoop is that Scott Dunbier, and he recommended them because, well, they're newer and they also do the fulfillment, so they take care of all that, mailing out and everything else. Whereas usually with the Kickstarter, and to be honest, I've moved so many times that down here in Texas, I don't have a lot of roots and people that I know that I could say, "Hey, come on over to my house. You want a box of comic books?" and mail them out, And
I wish I lived in Texas.
It's
free labor. Just fly him down. You got Jar Jar all day.
I would do it for days just to go through to see some of your original. Oh my God.
It might get creepy, but you're going to get all your stuff mailed out. It's going to be
the thing is that, when I get people to help, I always feed them and I pay them, and
look at that.
sometimes people, I say,
I
well,
don't eat much.
You want artwork instead, and they'll go, yeah, and I, so I'm always a barterer.
A barterer.
Well, if you're ever
Nice.
at a con up here and you need a handler and somebody to show you around and stuff, I will volunteer my services.
Yeah, you got it. Well, we got to get him at Terrificon. That's on us, guys.
That would be dope.
Yeah,
that would be great.
That's
Terrificon
on
is
us.
pretty
We gotta
huge
do
on
that.
comic.
Is where again?
Connecticut.
Yeah, Mohegan Sun.
Connecticut. It's at the Mohegan Sun Arena. It's a beautiful facility.
It's huge on
he's
artists.
It's Mitch Halleck. He's grown quite a bit. This is like his 9th or 10th year now.
I think so. Solo.
Bigger every year, and there's literally hundreds of artists that he has.
Yeah. And some big names too.
And Mohegan Sun is like the world's largest resort casino. It's just insane.
Yeah, there's tons of
It's
hotels,
a city,
and
all
there's
of its
entertainment right there on the premises, food of all different kinds on the premises, free parking. So it's got a lot of advantages.
We really like it.
I was just going to say, it sounds like you guys are just being tortured, Oh, no.
It would be a great fit. It would really be a great fit.
Well, tell him if he wants to fly an old dinosaur out, I'd be willing to. Sure. Connecticut is I haven't done a.
It's nice right now.
Yeah. Well, down here, it's going to be in the 80s in the next couple of days. It was 81 today, and it's just like I'm like, ugh. I grew up in North Dakota where it's 9 months of winter, 1 month of summer, spring, and fall. So I'm used to sort of sitting on a park bench and freezing the old gonads. Yeah, this is very different for me. But as you can tell, my wife is very happy to be here and tell bad stories about me. So
that's you guys make it work. That's good.
You do. And as people say, well, where do you want to live? And I just go, well, wherever my studio is. That's where my heart is. So it's where I draw.
Oh, that's something I keep meaning to ask.
Yes.
Besides art and movies, do you collect any other stuff? Art books, I know all that, but are you a big geek for anything else?
I'm a huge dinosaur nut, and you can I don't know if you can see them, but okay, now if I move my head here and I move away, but there's a whole bunch of dinosaurs, and there's a really nice saber-tooth.
Oh, actually, yeah.
Back in there. I have enough Stitch figures, which I think is, to me, one of the most brilliant designs ever.
Oh, Lilo and Stitch. Yeah.
And Chris Sanders, brilliant stuff. But dinosaurs, monsters. I have the books. I have some Godzilla stuff. Oh God, here you go. My friend gave me this.
Oh, that's wicked cool.
Nice.
A Lego Stitch.
Oh,
nice.
And I just got a new computer because mine was 14 years old. But this guy was always sitting on the other one. So you can tell I have,
Oh, that's cool.
a lot of strange stuff in the room. I have some little Star Wars figures, a lot of different toys. I've sort of cut back a little bit, but there's just anything that interests me. We have fossils in the house. One anniversary, we bought a hippo skull. So we have a huge hippo skull in our living room.
Whoa.
Oh my God. The hippo skull is the coolest skull in the animal kingdom, bar none. It's one of those ones, I don't know if you guys have seen the meme, but it's like, it's a good example of okay, what if an artist didn't know what an artist from another planet or something didn't know what a hippo looked like, and they just saw the skull, and there's this artist rendition of this monster that looks like a dragon or something, and it's like this is the artist rendition, this is the skull, this is the real animal, it's a friggin' hippo. It's just so great. It's the best skull.
Well, yeah, because Anita and I have done things like, we would clean old skulls. Her father was a butcher, and so
you guys use the Beatles.
I'm sorry.
Use the Beatles.
Beatles, not quite that bad.
Clear the flesh.
But so we've cleaned horse heads and some boar and beaver, muskrats, and things like that. So we have a collection of skulls because
Neat.
when I
That's
was teaching, what you were talking about is that you could take in something and say, okay, here's what a predatorial skull looks like, and the teeth and the eyes are facing forward. Here's the prey, and their eyes are mounted on the side so that they can have that 180-degree view. And the difference between a horse with his chewing teeth and a dog or a cat with their biting and tearing. So yeah, there's so again, it's that form follows function in nature, which is what Terrell was telling everybody too. Yeah,
those are all the benchmarks. You can't do better.
Another great artist is Claire Wendling. If you want to see some really great stuff, she's a super genius. So I've been lucky to meet all these guys. No, I haven't met Claire. Excuse me. We've met on Facebook. She hasn't, blocked me, so I'm doing okay.
No, they're lucky to meet you, Mark. They're lucky to meet you.
That's right.
Well, I'm lucky to meet you guys. So there you are.
Thank you so much for coming on.
You said, hey, we need to waste a couple hours of our life with you, and here we go.
Absolutely.
That was
it's time for you to do part 2. We'll have you on again.
Aha! Yeah.
That's right.
Well, definitely.
I will definitely keep that in mind. That will be a good thing. Well, gentlemen, Jeremy, if you find, there is a big comic book convention that Bedrock City is going to start. Not big; it's their first one down here at the Stafford Center, and they've got some pretty nice guests. They got Kevin Nolan coming, so I'm excited. He's another, Fouquet genius, as I call him, because when you were a teach, you couldn't swear, so I couldn't say fucking genius, so I'd always just say Fouquet genius. So, he's coming, and Tony Harris.
Nice.
Tony 3. We've met Tony before.
And Jeff Smith, who did Bone.
Of course, yeah.
And the other two guys just fell out of my head. This is terrible. They're both really competent. Aaron Lepresti and the guy who did Stranger Than Paradise.
Give me a second. I have the one.
He's a local detective guy too. Gosh. So yeah, there's a lot of these. Bedrock is a great place. It really is.
We'll have to check it out.
All right, guys. Cool. I mean,
thanks so much, Mark.
Mark, thanks so much for your time. Thank you for sharing your stories and your amazing artist, and your talent is undeniable. So thank you again.
Thank you.
It's been a real pleasure for sure. Thank you so much.
I love all the stories.
Yeah, you definitely made Steve's day.
And if anybody wants to follow you, should they find you on Facebook and
hit
the Zoom?
Facebook and I guess really Facebook, because Instagram, I'm still kind of a Luddite with that. So with Instagram, I'm under Grazing Dinosaur Press, and I finally learned how to, message people back. So but I just, I post artwork or other people's artwork that I like. So I stay away from the politics, and I probably won't share my bean dip recipe with you either.
All right.
Mark,
where can we buy your pieces of art? Where can the fans buy your pieces?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Usually when I'm at conventions is where you're going to find them.
Okay.
But like with the Zoom,
can people reach out to you to get commissions done?
Boy, I haven't done. I do commissions when I go to the cons and some of that kind of stuff, and I haven't really thought about, because usually what most people do is, like I said, I'm not a great superhero guy, and for my friend, I did for his son, and I should repost it. I did Spider Ham.
Oh, nice.
Which I've never done anything like that before, but it was a lot of fun.
Peter Porker.
I think you would rock a Frog Thor, personally.
Oh, there you go.
Or a Fin Fang Foom. Oh, come on.
Oh, I painted a Fin Fang Foom for Marvel, so yes.
Nice.
Love Fin Fang Foom. They did a collection way back when of just Marvel monsters, and I did Fin Fang Foom, and I did El Diablo with my favorite Dragon Man. the Kirby
Nice.
Dragon Man, the big.
Oh yeah.
Dragon Man,
Yeah.
And I did El Diablo standing there holding a cube, and then the Dragon Man and all the stuff hanging in his.
Yeah, El
Oh,
Diablo, the Alchemist. I remember him.
Yeah.
I would love to
That's
say, have you ever
pretty
done
fucking
Swamp
dope.
Thing? I feel like Swamp Thing is made for you.
Oh yeah, that would be
But you know,
Great
I'm going to
world.
tell you right now, the guy
Kelly
drawing it now,
Jones.
Mike Perkins, and how can you beat Wrightson? And then how can you beat Nestor Redondo?
There's
And then,
Bissett.
you know, you got Bissett and Veach that just took it to a whole nother thing with Alan Moore. And now you've got Perkins doing it. There, it's, you know, that's such a brilliant character, and there's so many great things.
Yeah, that's like made to get lost in the texture, right? That's like made for that.
A couple of the characters I would like to do, but they're so caught up in their Bibles. Hawkman was always a favorite of mine as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that would be cool. Like, especially if he did the, I forget the world that he's from there, that they do that version.
Yeah.
Thanagar.
Yeah, Thanagar.
And you know, there's so much of the old great Marvel and DC stuff that was just always kind of fun. Doctor Strange. I mean, you know, there's Ditko. That was like amazing stuff to me.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. And then, oh come on, Michael Golden did a great Doctor Strange story. Paul Craig Russell did one that would just make, you know, anybody hit puberty. It's just amazing.
You said Michael Golden. Now I can his Gen 13 cover #1. Now I'm like, oh, Mark would be great on Gen 13. Like, holy crap, that would be an amazing kind of stuff to see.
And
But
and Golden doing the Nam, which was like this brilliant mixing of a cartoony style people with the incredible realism of his machines and the guns and all that kind of stuff. I just remember looking at that, just being sort of blown away at you know, just the amount of beautiful draftsmanship that he had. I also got to ink Tony Harris's first work.
Oh,
wow. Oh, no shit.
For Nightbreed, yeah.
Okay.
And so that
see,
was
Drew would have loved to.
Oh, wait,
he's
is that
like a Hugh Manola and a huge Harris fan, and like would have just been like, oh my god.
The Nightbreed, was that the sequel that Barker had written as a treatment that they turned into a comic?
The one I did a 2-issue stint. There was 2 issues. And that was written by Dan Chichester, and we took a South American myth and made that. So what they were doing is letting the teams create sort of like, you know, with that his universe, there's all these creatures all over the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was always that touch of, okay, we'll go back to the beginning where it started, and then we'll now go, okay, South America and some of that kind of stuff. And I'm trying to think of, because Tony has, I have one of the pages hanging on my wall because it's just a beautiful piece.
Yeah, his Starman work he's really well known for. It's undeniable.
Yeah. And he did, you know, that Ex Machina and his new book, the oh come on, Skull something. Why? Oh, Tony, he's gonna punch me.
Oh, I know.
He's gonna drop kick you and you're gonna fall in love.
Whistling Skull.
Whistling. Is it whistling or whispering?
I think it's Whistling Skull.
I think you're right. Whistling Skull.
I'm pretty sure I ordered the hardcover of that.
Yeah. I don't know if I should have told that story because now I'm going to get drop kicked in the groin.
Like all over again.
Well, we're going to see. Well, Tony's going to be at TerificCon in August. So.
Oh, is he really?
Yeah. You should talk to him about it.
Ah.
Oh, there you go. Aha.
Well,
see, expanding Mark Nelson's market. We're doing it, guys.
Yeah. Yep. We just all really want signed stuff in person.
We just want to see you in person.
It's very self-serving.
You get commissions because your work is so beautiful.
Well, I do bring a lot of little drawings with me, like those ones you see at the Zoop, site, and a lot of the bigger ones are selling. But you know, because there's
almost nothing left. There's almost nothing left on Zoop.
Yeah, you've only got 3 of the cards left on there.
Yeah,
I saw that.
Everything's sold. Almost everything. All the big stuff is sold, except, well, the 2 big ass haven't sold. Everything else is gone except for the very small, just couple cards.
There's
Yeah.
a couple of the pen and ink drawings in brown ink of J.V. Holbrook that are actually in the book that sold, and those were pretty complex drawings. My wife yelled at me. She said, "You're not charging enough." And it's like,
I don't want to hold you here any longer. I just came up with more questions. I'm just like, hold on.
If you guys want to talk for a little more, it's fine. I'm not in any hurry.
I
So
think.
go ahead, Judy. What?
Oh, all right. Well, fine. Do you ever get like an emotional attachment to like letting some of these go? It must be a bit tough on you. Like,
it's
so then again, it must be kind of crazy keeping them all around the house too. But
there are some that I have kept, but generally it takes about 5 to 6 years, and then I'll finally go okay. But no, I don't get attached to everything, because I do believe that I am going to make more.
Okay.
And there's always new ideas and new things going, and if people really like what I'm doing and get some of the stuff, I'm just tickled pink. I did a whole series of blue pencil mermaid drawings, and there was probably about 15 of them, and I sold almost all of those just on Facebook.
No kidding.
And so every once in a while on Facebook, I'll put up I'll say, okay, here's some original drawings for sale. And I've been lucky enough that people do follow and do buy some of them.
That's fantastic.
But here, wait a second. Since you asked.
Still wearing pants, guys. Everything's okay.
For the next 10 minutes. He knows where books are too. That's impressive.
That's very organized.
That's because with the amount I can get 4 pounds of horse pucky into a 5-pound bag. I don't know if this is the glare.
Oh yeah.
We got some. Yep. Right there. Yeah.
We got side boob on the show, guys. We got side boob.
All right.
And I'm sorry that they're so
that we can
glary,
see.
but this book is just filled with a bunch of different drawings, so you can see that sometimes with what happens with me, I'll draw sort of like a bunch of friends sitting around talking, and then I'll do different things. So those are still pretty playful.
And these are all just for yourself?
Yeah.
That's pretty, that's got to be so much fun. Be like, I'm bored. I'm going to create an octopus king. And wow, that's...
What is that?
Somebody's playing music.
Sounds is that the Who? Who?
Oh, it's coming from you, Mark.
Oh, it is. Sorry. Hold on.
Just really want to listen
Very
to some Roger
unprofessional, Mark.
Daltrey.
What's going on here?
What? Wow. Oh, that's Bear's Den. Okay. Oh, come on.
That's not.
Hold on.
Sorry.
We don't want to get sued. Everybody talk over it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was. I hit the key on the keyboard and it did it. But okay, here's one full of crosshatch for you. Let me do it this way.
Never gonna live this down now, Steve.
No. It's absolutely
No. It's a tool in the toolbox, right?
Yeah. But see, now this is.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh, look at
Oh, that's awesome.
Like I was saying, like
your stuff.
Hat, all the crosshatch in the hat.
Yeah. See, your stuff really reminds me of Jim Henson and Brian Froud and stuff too. Like that imagination of like, the hat's also a bird, like
Yeah, he's like a Disney-esque character, but then like took into an MC-esque level.
See, I'm just getting Labyrinth. I feel like that guy could just be in Labyrinth. The Labyrinth with David Bowie.
Yes.
You know 1985's David Bowie from the movie Labyrinth.
That's not bad, Steve.
I know. Hello. Hello, Jar Jar.
I've been working on it for 10 years.
Damn these cameras.
Glares.
Stop beating up your art, Mark. It's not worth it. We're not worth it. That is really cool.
Great.
Wow.
So cool. So, you know, like you can see that's not exactly the same kind of thing.
Yeah,
So,
when I get bored, I write commercials.
So Mark, do these creatures ever
He's
invade
pretty good
your
at it, though.
nightmares at all?
I'm sorry, sir?
Do these creatures ever invade your nightmares that you create?
For real?
Okay, now here's something that I will be honest about. Is to me, a nightmare is not being chased by monsters or that kind of stuff. A nightmare is being accused of something that you didn't do, but you're being held accountable in a very strange way for it. Okay. You know, where people are, you know, coming after you for this or that. So mine are more like, you know, inhumanity to each other is my nightmare. Okay. You know, like a giant fly, you know, okay, you know, if he's going to attack me, he might be hungry, or it might be this, or it might be that, and I can get away or poke him with a stick. So
get him some brandy. He'll be fine.
Yeah, get him some brandy.
Yeah.
And when Seth comes around, we'll just pull his teeth out. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't have, like I said, I had a nightmare, and it involved a comic book company and some of the things that they were saying about me and what was going on. And it was, you know, it was a make-believe comic company, but I was being held, you know, at bay for something. And it was really kind of a terrifying, you know, one of those situations that you don't want to be in. So that's more my nightmares. Because when I look at a lot of that stuff, when you think of Hieronymus Bosch and you think of the Renaissance and the whole idea of demons and devils and the temptation of St. Anthony, and you just go on historically with this stuff, it always fascinates me that, you know, it's that whole thing too. It's like, you know, you're sitting down and you're having dinner and the crab starts walking across the table. That's a little spooky, you know. So, yeah.
At least it happened before you ate it.
Well, I know in Japan, when you get shrimp sushi, yeah, they want to have it alive so that they kill it right there in front of you, so you know it's fresh. So again, that's a cultural thing, you know. I mean, it spooks me. I mean, I just remember seeing a dog that gotten hit by a car, and he was, you know, sort of half lying there. He could barely move, and he was sitting and he was just howling at the world. So that to me is sort of a nightmare, you know.
Pain, sure.
So, sorry, end on one of these nice depressing notes.
Yeah,
you know.
that's really good, Mark. Thanks for making us all sad now.
Yeah.
Well,
as my Winnie the Pooh story in Honey, red, my favorite color, Eeyore. Well, you asked the question.
That's dark.
That's
dark. Absolutely. I did.
Yeah, but you know, like that book, I probably have 3 or 4 of those just filled with those drawings.
Wow.
That's good.
And then I have a lot of old comic book work, and I have old TSR work that I've been sort of getting rid of.
Where do you hide it all? Like, besides the bookcases, because I know a lot of that's like actual art books of other people's.
Yeah.
Like, where do you hide the all?
He puts it on the ceiling, Jar Jar.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm waiting for it to join my ceiling.
I have a lot of flat files, which you don't see. So I have flat files. I have bookcases. One of my old students came down and was visiting, and she came in the studio and she says, "I just love your studio because it smells like paper."
Yeah.
Oh man, I knew it.
I knew it. And again, I'll pick up a comic just to.
Yeah,
the old stuff, and it's just like old.
Oh yeah,
that's
paper. This is the first printing. So
yeah,
it's 1990, and all the white is all yellow, and
yep. And you sniff it, and you can smell that ink, and you can.
Oh yeah.
I'm an old printmaker. You don't have to, you know. I walk into a print shop and I start to get weak at the knees. So
I can imagine. All right, now I think
no other question, like, you know, what makes you happy? Oh, eating my dog, no, or something like that.
No,
like,
hey. No, I think
we'll save them for part 2 there, Mark.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen. And I'm sorry I didn't mean to talk your faces off.
No, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It was
great.
very
It's the best.
enjoyable. It was a lot of fun.
Same for us, Mark. Absolute pleasure to have you. If you can stay on just for 1 second, we'll close up the show, and that way we'll make sure all the files are all set. So we talked about where people can find you. Actually, if you check the show notes up above or down below, depending on where you're watching or listening to us, you can find all the information for Mark, including your website, where you can get Zoop Thunder Hunters, and I believe we have your Facebook link there as well. And
Thank you.
We'll kick it over to Parasite Steve. Where do you like people interacting with you?
You guys can find me on Facebook. I am Steve Van Samson, and I do have a brand new book. It just came out this week. It is called Black Honey and Other Unsavory Things. It is a collection of 11 sweet and unsavory tales written by yours truly and illustrated by Mr. Derek Rook of Rough House Publishing, put out by Rough House Publishing. And we just made the debut with this fine tome at Monster Expo halfway to Halloween last weekend, and we did very well. Everybody responded. We were very humbled. Very, very good showing for the book for a first weekend. And if you guys are interested, please go to roughhousepublishing.com and find it there. It's in the book section. If you are interested in the hardcover version, which was the big seller this weekend. Like, it's pretty cool. It comes with a ton of fun extras. We got like double-sized two-sided monster trading cards for 6 of the monsters from 6 of the stories. There's stickers, there's all sorts of stuff. And if you're absolutely insane, I just have to say this, we had hot sauce made up that's actual black honey. And so it's honey hot sauce, and that's specifically for people who buy both the soft cover and hardcover. It's called the Ultimate Edition. If you got to have it all and you're a collector and you're just crazy, you will get the bonus of actually getting your very own vial of actual black honey, and it is delicious. I have to say, it's made by Silk City Hot Sauce, who was on the show as a sponsor for a month a couple of years ago. They're great. They're from Vermont. Anyway, I'll stop talking now. Thank you very much, and goodbye.
Awesome. Jar Jar.
Oh, hey, that's right, folks. Thanks for tuning in to Splash Pages, the podcast that always leaves you with a smile on your face and a new appreciation for the world of comics. Don't forget to check out Comic Book Lovers Buy, Sell, Trade, and Auction House for even more comic book goodness. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to leave us a review and let us know what you want to hear more of in the future. Till next time, Jar Jar signing off and reminding you, always keep turning those pages. And yes, I read that one too.
Nice. Velvet, take us out, sir.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you so much for another great show. Your man, Velvet J, and you know me, the content king for the last 7 months. I've actually got one of my biggest things blowing up right now, over 640,000 views on Facebook Reels. I'm very excited about that. Thank you, Stan Lee, who gave me the piece of content inspiration. And thank you again for Mark Nelson for joining us today, sharing his amazing art and his stories. It's always great to be here. We'll see you next Tuesday. Have a great night.